NDP Liberal Levin seems to continue today. I'm wondering, Mr. Berlin raised the issue of sick notes. We've heard doctors complain about this quite a bit over the last couple of years. What has got you to the point where you want to take a look at that?
Well, it's been ongoing. Gary raised the issue today, but we've been looking at it for a period of time, and he specifically raised it around the coronavirus. We've been looking at it for other issues, but I actually, from question period, I'll go back and speak to the clerk in public service about even if for the short term that we actually suspend that practice, but I have to go back and see what's possible. And Gary's standing there. I want to thank Gary for raising the question period.
Do you know, and maybe you don't, this is why you've got to go and look into it, but legislatively, how tricky would it be to institute some kind of rule that says employers can't require sick notes for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, and we would only be able to really impact our own, I think, at the time, but I'm not sure. That's what I have to go back and check.
And when you say your own, you mean
government employees.
Okay. Do you know what the policy is today?
I don't know all the details of it, but I do know we require sick notes, and it was raised actually when I was with Doctors Nova Scotia in our contract negotiation. Doctors Nova Scotia, Gary Ernst. But I appreciate being reminded of it today.
And when would that have been like?
What was the concern?
Just the whole issue of it's time consuming, all of those things, people having to come and do them. But I think what Gary highlighted today was the issue that, people who were asking to stay home who are not well, we're sending them to get sick notes to verify that. I think, we have to have we were looking at some point we have to trust our employees. So I will go look at it and see, first of all, the genesis of why it was instituted and what can we do, if not permanently, but what can we do in the short term to deal with this issue.
What about employees, the broader question about employees who may work in a coffee shop or not unionized, don't have a contract, who aren't really allowed sick days? They don't show up, they don't get paid.
Well, that is obviously the back and forth at their employer. That's something that happens with them. That's why many people, we see private sector unions that are across, and that would be something to negotiate at the bargaining table.
Right, but is there anything you can do as a government for those people?
No.
Speaking of negotiations, the deal is finally done with the Crown attorneys. Putting aside the fact that things did get tense for a few days, are there any takeaways from that experience about how you were ultimately able to reach a deal through negotiations that the government may look to apply in future circumstances?
Listen, every time we go to the bargaining table, every one of these contracts are different. As I said to you, they wanted to go immediately arbitration. It was not where we were headed. We were too far apart. And I'm grateful for the contract that we had. It was on the table prior to that we settled on, and we made a commitment that we will be repealing that piece of legislation that we had introduced, and at that we're in the works of doing that.
What's the process that government has to go through to do something like that?
That's what I just asked the Minister of Justice to figure out.
Do you feel like you needed 203 to get to where you ultimately got? Was it a catalyst to getting a deal done?
There's certain time frames inside of the process of the negotiation that if you don't have it at this particular period of time and then you go to the next stage, it's too late. That's why it was introduced when it was.
And I know that you've talked a lot in the past about trying to have some uniformity, some fairness across the public service. Should unions that you're currently talking with and you will be talking with in the not too distant future look at this deal and expect that this is sort of a template for what they can expect to be offered?
If you look, we have a 5-year pattern now that was there, a 6-year pattern, sorry. Some we went to an 8-year pattern. I think people can expect that to be the pattern. But everyone has different circumstances. As you know, part of the Crown that was highlighted to us was particularly the entry level with Crown. So we collapsed some of the steps, which meant they moved up the pay scale quicker than they normally would have prior to this contract. And there are some other issues that are specific to certain bargaining units that we would work with them to address. But in terms of the wage pattern, they can look at the pattern that we set.
In addition to the pattern, all of the steps in the Crowns appear to have got some additional pay bump. Is that affordable? Because when Bill 203 was first introduced, the finance minister said that what was on the table at that point wasn't affordable.
This was what was on the table. We collapsed the steps. That was the negotiating piece that we'd given them. So we looked at, and the deal that we ended up with was what was on our table. There may have been some other pieces, but the financial component of it is what we had on the table. It's affordable. We can afford to do it. We're looking at with some of our other units, what specific contractual things that are in there that we have to address. Some things like sick days or other things that are part of that would obviously be different for other bargaining units, and we'd address those.
Lisa,
Sick notes. Like, would you want to do this as quickly as possible given COVID?
Well, yes, Gary asked me to do it, so I want to do it as fast as I can.